This is a May Luna Media production.
Hey, and welcome to Synaptic Soul, the podcast where science meets spirit, and we get real about the beautiful and brutal and magical mess of being human. I'm your host, Ava Marie Anderson, writer, mystic, multidimensional mischief maker. Quick disclaimer, you may hear the occasional snort, sigh, dramatic flop from my two French bulldogs, Rocky and Rambo. They're the soundtracks of my life, my soul companions, and honestly, the real stars of the show. Someday we'll dedicate a full episode to their role in my daily rituals, emotional healing, and wild spiritual life. But for now, just know that they're always close by, snoring their support. Let's dive in. So here's the thing. Somewhere along the way, spirituality got rebranded into a pastel-washed Instagram aesthetic, and you know the vibe. Soft filters, positive affirmations, matcha in hand, talking about high vibes only like it's the 11th commandment. And it's cute until you realize that it is just repression in a prettier outfit. And the dark truth is that you can't heal what you refuse to look at. And most of the modern wellness world is just a glorified avoidance strategy with a rose quartz on top. Because, see, this whole love and light movement accidentally taught people that darkness is something to be fixed instead of understood. Like, we got so addicted to appearing healed that we forgot how to actually heal. Like, we started using meditation like a tranquilizer, or gratitude journals like duct tape, and a manifestation like an emotional Botox, covering up the cracks instead of getting curious about what's underneath them. But here's where it gets deliciously uncomfortable. The shadow isn't evil. The shadow is just the part of you that's been exiled, the rage that you swallowed to stay likable, or the grief that you buried to stay functional, or the wild impulses that you repressed to stay good. And Jung called it the dark side of the personality, but not because it's demonic. It's dark because it's unseen. The problem isn't the darkness itself, it's that we are terrified to look directly at it. But let's just drop some science into this cauldron. So, your brain has two primary systems when it comes to emotion: the limbic system, where trauma and memory hang out, and the prefrontal cortex, where logic lives. When you repress emotions, say anger or shame, the limbic system still fires off alarms, but the prefrontal cortex pretends that everything is fine. It's like having a smoke alarm screaming in your house while you smile and say, "Everything's just love and light, babe." Like, that disconnect fragments your nervous system. And over time, your body becomes the haunted house that your spirit is too scared to walk through. And this is why your affirmations don't always work. You're saying, "I am abundant," while your nervous system is screaming, "I don't feel safe to receive." The quantum field responds to vibration, not vocabulary. If your shadow has been running on the frequency show, like unacknowledged guilt or suppressed rage or unresolved fear, the universe is going to mirror that back no matter how many crystals you charge. And it's not just woo. The nervous system is your spiritual GPS. When you are in survival mode, your vagus nerve short circuits, your digestion tanks, and your breath gets shallow, and then your heart rate spikes. Your body literally doesn't trust life, so of course your manifestations stall. You can't attract miracles from fight or flight. You attract chaos that matches your unhealed patterns. So let me just tell you that high vibe only isn't a high vibe at all. It is dissociation in yoga pants. The real spiritual work isn't about escaping density, it's about integrating it. It's remembering that light without dark isn't enlightenment. That's delusion. Like, you want to ascend, descend first. The divine lives in both your orgasms and your breakdowns, both your laughter and your rage. So when you finally stop running from your shadow, you realize that it has been protecting your power this entire fucking time. It is the gatekeeper to your authenticity and your magnetism and your intuitive knowing. The moment that you stop trying to heal it away, instead invite it to sit beside you, that is when the alchemy begins. So let me just say it louder for the people still smudging their emotions into submission. Your shadow does not ruin your manifestation. Your denial of it does. And you can quote that in your journal tonight, by the way, because real healing isn't cute. It is holy chaos. It is nights of ugly crying. It's full body shaking and realizing that your darkness was never trying to destroy you. It was only trying to wake you up. And as we go deeper into this episode, I want you to remember the shadow isn't a threat to your divinity. It is your divinity. It's just dressed up in survival gear. It's your body's sacred language saying, hey, you left some pieces of yourself down here. Now come pick them up. Here's the truth that most people miss. Your shadow isn't just hiding in your subconscious mind. It is living rent free in your cells. Because every unspoken word, every swallowed emotion, every time you didn't feel safe to express yourself, your body logged it. The human organism is a data collector, and trauma is simply information that the nervous system couldn't process in real time. So think about that. Every time you said, I'm fine, when you weren't, your nervous system had to choose survival or authenticity. And every time it picked survival, a tiny piece of your authenticity got stored away like a file marked process later. And the problem is that most of us never circle back to open those files. So they live inside the fascia, which is that connective tissue that wraps every organ and muscle, holding the memory of what the mind forgot. And biologically speaking, the body is the subconscious. When you flinch at certain tones, or you freeze when somebody raises their voice, or you feel inexplicably small around certain people, that is not energy sensitivity. That's your amygdala, which is that fear center of the brain, doing its best to keep you alive based on outdated data. And the shadow self is essentially your unupdated software. It's full of old loops and limiting beliefs and unprocessed grief that still thinks you're in danger. And now, here's where the science gets sexy. According to polyvagal theory, your vagus nerve is the master switch of safety. It tells your body when it's safe to relax or digest and love and to receive. Basically, all the things your shadow work is trying to reclaim. But if your nervous system has been running on chronic survival mode for decades, your body doesn't believe that safety exists. You can repeat affirmations until you're blue in the face, but if your vagus nerve isn't online, your frequency stays trapped in protection mode. And this is why shadow integration is nervous system work. It's not about fixing your darkness, it's about teaching your body that darkness isn't dangerous anymore. Like every time you sit with discomfort instead of numbing it, your brain forms new neural pathways. That is neuroplasticity in action. You're literally rewriting your wiring. And every time you breathe through shame instead of abandoning yourself, you are training your vagus nerve to stay regulated instead of panicked. And if we zoom out, trauma isn't just personal, it is ancestral. Epigenetics has shown us that trauma markers can pass down through generations, meaning your body may be carrying memories that aren't even yours. That deep fear of abandonment might not be about your ex. It could be about your great grandmother's grief encoded into your DNA after losing a child. Like these aren't just metaphors. You've heard me say it before, but studies on Holocaust descendants and famine survivors have proven that stress and fear chemically alter gene expression. So, when you're doing your shadow work, you're not just healing your inner child, you're also updating the energetic operating system of your entire lineage. You're telling your cells that the war is over. That's what integration feels like, a surrender that echoes backward and forward in time. And spiritually speaking, that's what it means to transmute density into light. Scientifically, that's biophotons, like literal light particles emitted by healthy, coherent cells. When you integrate shadow, your cells emit more lights. The mystics and the quantum physicists are describing the same phenomenon in different languages. Your body isn't betraying you when you feel resistance, it's protecting you from using an outdated map. But every time you face the shadow and you breathe and you cry and you shake and you scream and you journal and you dance, you are updating that map. You're turning pain into data and data into wisdom and wisdom into power. And the wildest part is that the very sensations that you have been trying to avoid, that panic or that tight chest or those hot tears, those are the portals. They're the invitations back into coherence. You don't ascend by escaping the body, you ascend through it. So, the next time your shadow surfaces, when you're triggered or when you feel like you're regressing or when you want to spiritually bypass your way out, remember that this is just your nervous system saying, hey, there's unprocessed energy here. Can we finish this download? Integration isn't glamorous, but it is glorious. It's biology meeting divinity, and it's proof that your body isn't your enemy, it is your oracle. This episode is supported in part by Sage App, aka the app that's basically a metaphysical multivitamin. It's like having a spiritual sanctuary in your pocket minus the incense smoke in your purse. It's also where I host my new moon manifestation clubs, which, if you know, we go deep. So if you're ready to stop doom scrolling and start soul scrolling, download Sage in the App Store or Google Play and then step into a more intentional, magical version of your day. That's SAGED, like Sage, but with an app. Back to the episode. All right, picture this. You walk into a room full of mirrors, and everywhere you look, you see yourself. But depending on the mirror, you might look distorted, or stretched, or warped, or magnified. That is the universe, dude. Every experience, every relationship, every random trigger, all of it is a quantum mirror reflecting your unintegrated energy back to you. The universe isn't punishing you, it's just running a feedback loop of your frequency. And let's just get nerdy for a second. So, in quantum physics, there's something called the observer effect, which the act of observing a particle actually changes its behavior. Before observation, it exists in a state of potential, a wave function, infinite possibilities. But once observed, it collapses into a defined state, which is matter. So, translation, what you bring awareness to becomes real. That is shadow work and scientific drag. When you bring loving awareness to your darkness, it stops being a chaotic potential and solidifies into power. And this is why ignoring your shadow doesn't make it disappear. It just keeps vibrating in the background, influencing your reality from the quantum field. Like every suppressed emotion is still an energy signature in your field, and the universe, being the world's most committed mirror, will keep reflecting it until you say, fine, I see you. And now let's talk polarity. So, the law of polarity says that everything in the universe has an opposite: light and dark, love and fear, expansion and contraction. One cannot exist without the other, yet we keep trying to manifest only one side of the equation. But here's the kicker: if you resist the dark, you collapse the full spectrum of creation. You can't manifest in Technicolor while rejecting half of the color palette. And this is why integration is power. The shadow realm, the so called low vibration, it is just raw, unrefined energy. It's the dark matter of your psyche. Astronomers tell us that dark matter makes up 85% of the universe's mass, invisible, yet holding galaxies together. It's like, sound familiar? Your shadow work is the same. It's unseen and unfelt, but it is the gravity that keeps your personal universe coherent. So without it, you just spin out into spiritual delusion, basically. The mystics have always known this, by the way. Ancient Hermetic teachings talk about as above, so below, as within, so without. The yin and the yang symbol isn't a vibe check, it is a survival manual. In every point of light, there is a seed of darkness, and in every shadow, there is a flicker of light. When you integrate both, you transcend duality and you move into wholeness, or in quantum terms, coherence. So, when people talk about raising your vibration, it is not about denying your fear or your grief. It's about transmuting it. Emotion is just energy in motion. Motion. And when it's acknowledged and expressed, it changes frequency. This is the alchemy that mystics talked about. This is how demons become deities. Like, you look at the monster under your bed, you realize it's just a wounded child in armor, and then you invite that bitch into the light. And let's just get cosmic for a sec, because quantum entanglement is basically the universe's way of saying you are never not connected. When two particles interact, they remain linked no matter how far apart they travel. You measure one and you instantly influence the other. That's your shadow work, dude. When you integrate one piece of your darkness, the rest of your reality shifts instantly because it is all entangled. You heal an inner wound, and suddenly your relationships, your finances, your health, and your creativity, they all start reorganizing around that new coherence. And from a spiritual lens, this is the soul's grand game, to remember that light and dark are not enemies but dance partners. In myth, every hero descends before they ascend. Inanna's underworld initiation, Persephone's descent into Hades, Jesus harrowing hell. Like they all tell the same story. Integration equals resurrection. So, no, your shadow isn't a pit, it is a portal. Every trigger is a breadcrumb leading you back to your infinite potential. Every heartbreak is a wormhole to your higher consciousness, and every fucking meltdown is a quantum upgrade in disguise. You are not supposed to be pure light. You're supposed to be charged. When you merge your darkness with your light, you become a walking frequency generator, coherent, magnetic, unfucking stoppable. And if the universe is just consciousness experiencing itself, then every time you love a piece of your own darkness, the entire cosmos expands. So, next time you catch yourself spiraling, remember, you are not falling apart. You are collapsing a wave. You're taking an infinite chaos and you're turning it into embodied divinity. Even your demons are just unhealed gods waiting for recognition. Here's the thing, most of what you call your trauma didn't even start with you. Like you're walking around inside an emotional architecture that was built generations ago. Your shadow didn't just form from your childhood wounds, it's carrying the weight of your lineage's unfinished business. Like the ghosts of your ancestors are still whispering through your DNA, begging you to finish the story that they couldn't. So, epigenetics, which is the science that studies how behavior and environment can alter gene expression, it's proven this. Like, trauma can literally imprint itself onto your genetic code. And you've heard me talk about this before. Descendants of Holocaust survivors, famine victims, and war torn families carry altered stress markers even though they've never experienced those conditions themselves. I'm going to tell you right now, that's not woo. That is literally lab data. You are quite literally the biological manifestation of your lineage's story, the joy, the pain, the silent screams. And when you start doing that shadow work, you're not just healing you, you're updating the family operating system. You are saying to your bloodline, the pattern stops here. And then you're reprogramming generations of conditioning that taught your ancestors survival over sovereignty, silence over truth, obedience over authenticity. And think about it. Like maybe your grandma swallowed her voice because women weren't allowed to speak freely. Or maybe your grandpa numbed his pain in whiskey because nobody told him that grief was sacred. And maybe your mom carried the shame of her own mother's decisions. And now here you are, standing in your kitchen after a crying spell, feeling a rage or a sadness that doesn't even make sense. That's ancestral data resurfacing for integration. Like you're the one that your lineage has been waiting for. And spiritually speaking, this is why ancestor veneration exists in nearly every fucking culture. Like ancient societies knew that the dead and the living are in constant dialogue, an energetic feedback loop across timelines. When you heal, you're not just cutting cords with your lineage, you're just clearing out the static so that the true frequency can come through. You become the bridge between the past and the future, between the broken and the reborn. And let's not pretend that collective shadow doesn't weave into this too. Like, we inherit more than family patterns. We also inherit the cultural ones: racism, misogyny, religious guilt, colonialism. These aren't just social constructs, they are psychic infections that live in the collective field. Jung called it the collective unconscious, but mystics have always called it what it is: it's ancestral residue. When you confront your own internalized biases, your shame or your fear of being seen, you're also metabolizing collective trauma. Every time you break a silence, you dismantle a system. That is the spiritual activism nobody talks about. Integration as revolution. But let's get even more mystical. There's something called morphic resonance proposed by the biologist Rupert Sheldrake. It suggests that once something happens repeatedly, it leaves an energetic imprint that makes it easier for the pattern to repeat. But, and here's the magic, when a new pattern emerges, it also strengthens that field. So, translation, when you choose healing over harm and truth over silence and courage over compliance, you make it easier for everybody connected to you to do the fucking same. You're not just healing backward in time, you're bending the future. And this is why ancestor work can feel so intense. Like sometimes when you finally start speaking your truth, everything in your life shakes. The relationships, the job, the body symptoms, all of it, because you're moving energy that has been stuck for centuries. Your ancestors tried to survive. You came here to thrive. Like you're completing their sacred assignment. And the myths tell us this too. Like for real, Persephone didn't just visit the underworld for fun. Like she went to bring spring back to the surface. Inanna didn't descend because she was bored. She went to resurrect her lineage. And even Jesus descending into hell wasn't punishment, it was reclamation. They all faced the ancestral darkness. They retrieved the power and then they returned with new light. That's you every time you say, "This shit ends with me." So, when the shadows rise and you feel haunted by emotions that don't seem to belong to you, try whispering, "I see you. I release you. I carry your wisdom, not your wound." And that's how you transmute ancestral pain into ancestral power, by the way. And the science backs this up. Like trauma that's acknowledged and integrated can reverse those epigenetic markers. Your body literally starts writing a new genetic story. You are living the rewrite. So, no, shadow work isn't just self help, it is a fucking bloodline liberation. You're not just healing your inner child, you're healing your great great grandmother's heartbreak and your grandfather's silence and your mom's unspoken grief. You are the hinge point where karma turns into consciousness. And make no mistake, when one person in a lineage chooses truth, the whole fucking family tree exhales. This episode is brought to you in part by one of my most favorite humans on this spinning planet, Morgan Garza, and her book Soul Magic. If you've ever felt like your power was just waiting beneath the surface, or like there's something ancient and electric inside of you ready to be reclaimed, then this is the book that helps you remember. Soul Magic is not just a read, it is a summoning. It's filled with rituals and stories and the kind of grounded spiritual wisdom that doesn't talk at you, it talks with you. Morgan writes like a soul sister, a cosmic cheerleader, and a priestess all rolled into one. And it's a must-have for anyone on the path of awakening, reclaiming. So grab your copy at morgangarza.com or wherever books are sold, or bless someone else's journey and gift it, because real magic's meant to be shared. That's Soul Magic by Morgan Garza. You'll feel it in your bones. There's this myth that we've all been sold, and it's that healing means becoming peaceful and serene and unbothered. That the point of all this work is to erase the jagged edges and to graduate from chaos, but the real ones know healing doesn't make you softer. It makes you sovereign. It doesn't erase your darkness, it just gives it direction. And the wound is not your weakness, it is your fucking portal. Every crack in your heart is where light and shadow make love. Every scar is a symbol of survival that hums with data, literal energetic intelligence. Biologically, your nervous system learned to adapt to protect you. Spiritually, that adaptation created the archetype of the warrior. Your triggers are the GPS coordinates to your power, and think about it. Shame, when alchemized, becomes authenticity, the courage to stand in your naked truth. Rage becomes the sacred boundary, the force that protects your life force. Grief becomes depth, the ocean that gives birth to empathy. Every emotion that you once labeled bad was just energy misdirected, and when you claim it, it becomes magic. This isn't just poetic talk, by the way. This is fucking neuroscience. The human brain has the wild ability called neuroplasticity, which means that it can rewire itself through new experiences and perspectives. That means every time you meet your shadow with compassion instead of condemnation, you're literally forming new neural pathways. You're teaching your brain that pain isn't danger, it is data. You're converting trauma into intelligence. And now let's just ground it into the body. The amygdala, that ancient little almond shaped structure responsible for fear and survival, can't tell the difference between a physical threat and an emotional one. So when you confront your shadow, that old shame or that heartbreak or that guilt, your body might flood with adrenaline. But if you breathe and stay present and let the wave move through you, your nervous system learned something miraculous. Miraculous. We survived the feeling. And once your body knows that, it stops panicking every time the memory surfaces. Integration literally rewires your perception of reality. And spiritually speaking, this is the essence of alchemy. The old mystics weren't talking about turning lead into gold, they were describing turning pain into power. Alchemy is the shadow work with a crown on. You take the dense matter of your wound, the grief, the rage, the guilt, and then you transmute it into wisdom and creativity and compassion and power. That's why the phoenix burns, not to die, but to recalibrate. Every dark night of the soul you have ever endured was not a punishment. It was an initiation. You had to be cracked open because your power can't flow through perfection. It needs channels. The places you have been broken are the places that hold the most light. And light in physics isn't fluffy, it's radiation, it's potent, it changes matter. When you embody your shadow and your light together, you stop being a seeker of power and you start being a generator of it. And here's the truth, your monster isn't the villain, it's your misunderstood genius. It's that part of you that was told that you were too much or too emotional or too intense. That's the dragon you were meant to ride. When you integrate it, you stop apologizing for your fire and you start directing it toward creation instead of destruction. So instead of asking, how do I get rid of my shadow? Start asking, what power is this trying to give me? If you are deep in the thick of it right now, the breakdown, the rage, the panic, take this as your reminder. This is what transformation feels like from the inside. Like caterpillars don't become butterflies through spa days and affirmations. They literally dissolve into goo. Like you're not falling apart, you're reorganizing into something divine. And the moment that you stop seeing your pain as proof that something is wrong with you, every fucking thing changes. Pain is proof that you're alive, that you're metabolizing life instead of dissociating from it. When you integrate that monster, you reclaim that throne. You stop performing spirituality and you start embodying it. You realize that your shadows were never obstacles, they were invitations. Invitations to know yourself as God in human form. You don't slay the dragon, dude. You ride it. And from that vantage point, the world looks different. You see what you thought was, I don't know, punishment, whatever, that was actually preparation. Every heartbeat break, every betrayal, every dark night was training you to carry more voltage, to hold more of your own divine current without blowing your circuits. Because true power isn't about being untouchable, it's about being fully touched by life and still standing, heart open, eyes fucking blazing. When you finally stop fighting your darkness, life stops fighting you back. Like integration isn't some final destination or certificate of enlightenment. It's just a way of existing. It's choosing to be the light and the dark, the love and the rage, the calm and the chaos. And then realizing that that wholeness is way fucking sexier than perfection ever was. The truth is, your shadow was never trying to destroy you. It was trying to get your attention. Every trigger, every meltdown, every pattern on repeat, they were invitations, not punishments. When you start seeing your shadow moments not as setbacks, but as feedback, you start reclaiming your sovereignty. You stop saying, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what part of me is trying to rise right now? That is embodiment. And science backs this up, by the way. You know I'm going to come with receipts. When your nervous system experiences coherence, when your thoughts and your emotions and your actions align, your body produces higher levels of DHEA, your serotonin, your oxytocin. So, translation, you literally become a walking serotonin generator, and your biology rewards your authenticity. And then the quantum field, that mirror of mirrors, it matches that coherence by sending you experiences that feel like truth. The more you embody your wholeness, the more the universe rearranges to reflect it. Spiritually speaking, that's the real manifestation hack. Not think positive thoughts or pretend to be high vibe. No, it's feel it all. It's knowing that your grief doesn't lower your vibration, resisting your grief does. Integration is the ultimate frequency upgrade because nothing drains energy faster than pretending. When you show up as your whole self, flawed and fierce and free, the universe can finally recognize you. You become magnetic not because you're fucking perfect, but because you're fucking real. Real is rare energy. It's coherent, it's grounded, it's unstoppable. You stop chasing alignment because you are alignment. And this is where purpose emerges naturally. When you stop running from your darkness, your creative energy, your libido, as Jung called it, it returns. Every ounce of power that you spent suppressing your shadow becomes available for creation. This is why, after deep shadow work, people start painting or writing or launching businesses or just loving differently. When your energy isn't fragmented, it flows. Purpose isn't something you find, it's something that reveals itself once you're whole enough to hold it. And now let's just talk real world. Like living integrated means being aware of your patterns without identifying with them. It's noticing your jealousy and saying, "Hi, babe, what's the unmet need underneath you?" It's catching yourself people pleasing and saying, "What would happen if I told the truth instead?" It's using emotion as a compass instead of a curse. So try this. When anger shows up, ask what boundary needs reinforcing. When that sadness comes, ask what part of you is asking for rest or release. When fear arises, ask what part of you is craving safety or reassurance. That's living as an alchemist. That's turning everyday emotion into spiritual intel. And don't forget the body. Like your shadow lives in tissue, so embodiment is key. Dance your rage, scream in your car, shake your body like a wet dog after a hard day. Like let your nervous system finish the story. The body is the altar, babe. Worship it by letting it express. But above all, stay fucking curious. Integration isn't a one time ritual, it is a lifelong relationship. Your shadow will keep evolving as you do. New layers, new lessons, new mirrors. That is the beauty of it. You're a living, breathing paradox, and that's divine design. So if you've ever wondered, like, when am I going to be healed? The answer is you already are. Healing isn't about being done. It's about being present. It's about walking through life as your full and messy and magnificent self and knowing that even your darkness is sacred. Like you came here to live as a whole ass being, to stop outsourcing your power to gurus and trends and love and light platitudes, and to remember that divinity didn't separate itself into light and dark. We did that. And the moment that you reclaim both, you become unfucking stoppable. Because your power was never in your perfection. It was in your permission to be all of it. So here's your closing sermon. You're the fucking storm and the goddamn sunlight. You are the motherfucking spell and the fucking science. You are darkness that birthed the dawn. So go out there and live as though your shadow is your crown because it is. If you loved this episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a glowing review. It helps more beautiful souls like you find this space. Because your words matter, your energy ripples, and every review is like a little spell of support for the Synaptic Soul mission. So until next time, stay curious, stay cosmic, and keep waking the F up.